What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the topic of imposter syndrome, not even specific to iOS, but agnostically to the world of software engineering in the professional space. So basically a full-time job, any professional career. Now, this is a topic that I think resonates with a lot of people, whether they do iOS, whether they're a software engineer, and I would even go as far as to say in a variety of other disciplines. And it's something where I want to share 3 tips that you can use to combat the feeling of imposter syndrome. Now, before we get into it, drop a like down below, hit subscribe, you guys know the spiel, and let's talk about what imposter syndrome is before we get into the tips. So, as a quick preface, the notion of imposter syndrome is really, as a term describes the feeling of being an imposter in a particular environment. So this can equate to something like, not feeling like you know what to do or what you're doing in a workplace where everyone seems like they're on top of their work and everyone has all their work together, super organized. It could also equate to, large cultural changes of your environment. So let's say you didn't particularly grow up, let's say in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, and you landed your dream job, you got your first job, and you move out to the Bay Area, and you're suddenly around all these people that are, go, and tech community 24/7, and you might feel out of place, like an imposter. So with that said, knowing what imposter syndrome is, let's get into 3 tips that you can use on the daily to improve this feeling and honestly move away from the mindset of imposter syndrome. Number 1, the first thing that you need to understand is that everyone to a degree has imposter syndrome and they're in the same boat. So what does this mean? This means in the technical space, when you need to go and Google something or check a reference point on Stack Overflow, or you don't remember how to write some type of code, the honest truth is, and the reality is, nobody else does either. There is stuff that everyone references and Googles and, doesn't remember to the T, and it's pretty common. And contrary to what some people will tell you, right, or what some people may portray in YouTube videos or online where, they're these, savants and they know what they're doing and they learn to code in 3 months and they're, amazing. Sure, some people like that definitely exist, but it's definitely not the majority. So the first thing to understand and really to tell yourself is you're not alone. And this is the paradox of imposter syndrome, where people feel like they're the imposter in the room, but the funny reality is this is how everyone is feeling to a degree, and it does get better with time, which I'll get into in a bit, but that's the first thing to understand. So this brings us to point number 2, arguably the most important point, and that is you need to ask questions and put yourself out there if you want imposter syndrome to subside and get better with time. Now let's talk about each of these pieces. So asking questions is pretty bare bones. If you don't understand something, raise your hand, ask a question, whether it's in person, on a Zoom call, and if nobody else is asking the question, don't feel like it's a silly question. Put yourself out there and ask. Chances are somebody else in the group, if it is a group setting, might have the same question and they're afraid to speak up. So you'll be doing, everyone a favor who has the same question. Or if no one has the same question, then guess what? You just helped yourself figure out something that maybe was a little fuzzy to you or unclear, you were unclear on, or, it made you more comfortable in whatever you're trying to do. The second piece of that is put yourself out there, right? So there is this very famous quote by Bill Gates that I really love that resonates with putting yourself out there. And it goes something to the tune of, when Bill had the idea for Windows and Microsoft and some of the early stuff he was doing, he went and shared his idea with 1,000 people. 900 said no. 100 took meetings, or 5 took meetings, something like that. And 1 made him a billionaire. And the reason I think that hits so differently for me is you got to deal with so there's a lot of positivity and, luck that comes out of having conversations with new people. But one thing that's not shown very commonly on things like social media and, just the things that are glorified is the fact that there are so many failures and no's along the way of trying to do something. And I think the reason this resonates with subsiding imposter syndrome is when you're doing something and you fail 30 times before you get it right, don't feel like you're an idiot in the room where you don't know how to do this thing and for whatever reason everyone else seems to know what they're doing. Because A, they've probably gone through those 30 failures, and B, they're probably still quietly going through those 30 failures without you knowing. So, that is asking questions and putting yourself out there. Now, one big caveat I am going to throw out here. Do not use asking questions as a substitution for being lazy. Do your due diligence, make an effort, try to go proactively the mile that you feel that you should have gone before you ask a question. I have seen sometimes people will ask questions as a substitution for not wanting to, make an effort. Now, obviously it can help, but you're ultimately going to be shooting yourself in the foot, because there comes a point where, questions are going to get you so far, and it really does come down to the individual. This brings us to point number 3, and this I would say is, a nice follow-up to asking questions and putting yourself out there, and that is be consistent and be patient. Now, it might sound a little cliche, but the reality is imposter syndrome is, most felt by people that are new at something. Sure, it might go down in volume of the things that it applies to as you're, doing the thing for a long period of time, but it does get better with time. And I'll share a personal example. I take this YouTube channel as a really good example. The number of channels that I've started in the past related to software engineering and iOS, I can count on, both of my hands and all of my toes, right? Like there's a lot of times I've tried it and I wasn't consistent with it, right? My big thing was like, who wants to listen to me and my cringy videos? And there's a lot of people here on YouTube. Ali Abdal is one that I really like who stresses this a lot. And that is be consistent, do something for a year or 2 years and see, where do you get? Where does your comfort level get? And I guarantee you, either you'll figure out that you absolutely hate whatever you're doing and maybe it's time for a change, or the notion of imposter syndrome will slowly and, ever so slowly go down and you'll become more and more comfortable with it. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to learn every single thing about that topic. What it means is you're going to learn the ability, to be uncomfortable in a comfortable manner. So hopefully that statement made sense, but you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's ultimately what the time leads to. And that's why people that are in a particular position or a role or industry oftentimes say, hey, I don't feel imposter syndrome. I've been doing this for 20 years. And of course you are going to gain a lot of skills and knowledge and, aptitude for doing whatever your craft is over a period of time. So just to recap, understand you're not alone, ask questions, put yourself out there, which, I cheated and made that 1 point. And third, be consistent and be patient. Things take time. You're not going to feel like you know what you're doing right off the bat the first day when you are on the job or doing whatever it is you are, trying to achieve. So that is all I've got for you guys today. Even myself, speaking of imposter syndrome, I've been trying to make an effort more so with video quality, lighting that you guys can't see behind the camera, audio, the whole 9 yards. If you, like the video, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. If you're into tech, iOS, Swift, SwiftUI, trying to pair up my technical tutorial type videos with more so, practical advice and just things that I feel that I can share. Leave a comment down below if you've felt imposter syndrome, whether it is in a technical role, as a programmer or otherwise in life. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next video.